101.5 FM.
Well, there you go. Like she said, 98. We're here for it. Show 98, everybody. How's it going? Well, we didn't do a show last week because there was nothing to talk about. There's not much more to talk about this week, but welcome in. I'm AJ_Strong. We have Rocket Backhander.
Hi, everyone. How you doing?
And we have Hockey Jerk.
Who?
Who? Love to see it. So, do us a favor, of course, as always. Remember to subscribe to all of our social media platforms. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like us on Facebook. Check us out on Reddit. And, of course, as always, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And remember, if you ever miss anything or want to hear it back, all your favorite podcast platforms have us. And you can always find everything on the YouTube channel and at tealtownusa.com. So, with that, what up, everybody? So, I guess this is after week 27 or week 3 of lockdown, depending on what calendar you have. And what would have been the final weekend of the NHL season. But, of course, no, because social distancing guidelines have been extended nationwide until April 30th. The last time I checked, right now, it's probably up to Cinco de Mayo. And by next week, it'll probably be Labor Day. Not Memorial Day, Labor Day. So, I'll just start with this. The playoffs likely would have began on Tuesday, the 7th, right? At this point, is there a realistic way to complete this season without having any impact on next season? And what is the zero barrier? Is it like, like have you ever seen that movie Armageddon? It's like there's a point. The asteroid or whatever the hell is coming into Earth, there's a point that if you don't blow up the damn thing, doesn't matter, it's going to hit Earth. At some point, whatever zero barrier is, when does this become a lost season? I mean, is it Independence Day? And again, I say this that in order to not have any impact on the 2021 season.
To not have any impact on the next season, I think you're
start tomorrow.
Your zero barrier or your point of no return, if you will. I think, just basing this also off of what we've seen in the past, I think playoffs. I think playoffs have to start. And again, I know what local governments are saying. I think playoffs have to start May 1.
He's
because
right.
For reference, and again, I'm going to get a little sus on the dates here, but for reference, in the 2013 lockout half season, the first round, because everything was delayed a little bit, the first round started, if memory serves correctly, April 28th of that year. And even then, that got us to, the draft was combined into one day. Free agency was like July 9th, I think, or something. And so that was kind of pushing it as it was. So I think if you don't want to screw with next season, I think May 1 is like your drop dead date.
Yeah.
Well, so if this continues, do you think that the NHL budges and says, okay, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, we said no matter what, we didn't want to have any impact or a truncated season for 2021. Things change. You think that their outlook changes and they say, well, okay, maybe it's not the end of the world if we start the season on Thanksgiving or something.
I would just like to say, for the record, there's a certain individual who does things for the Sportsnet, I believe. I'm sorry, the Hockey News, my mistake. This chief thought that the idea AJ and I came up with 3 weeks ago is a good idea. So, just saying.
People are listening.
For reference, that is to empty the take on this season, finish it the way it's supposed to finish it, no matter how long it takes, and then just have a half season next year.
Yep. Well, funny you bring up Sportsnet as well. They asked earlier today, could North Dakota be an NHL location for the season to resume, and basically they just have all the playoffs happen there in one building. Although, I mean, what does that mean? And how, I don't know how many sheets of ice or what the facilities are there, but I mean, boy, if you're talking playing 2-3 games a day to keep up the the rotation, if you will, That's going to be some real crappy ice for whoever's third on there.
Yeah. That and like just logistically trying to house that many professional sports teams in a community. Like I know particular areas of North Dakota are, pretty tourist heavy once a year for Sturgis. I think that's North Dakota, isn't it? But like the rest of it's just sort of, there's not a whole lot up there. So I don't know if there would really be logistically enough commerce to be able to not overwhelm the community and also to support the needs of an entire professional organization.
Well, and not only that, but I think ideally, if you're trying to do some kind of like, neutral site, one location for the whole playoffs kind of thing, ideally you would want every team, every player, every staff, every person all in the same hotel. Just to limit exposure.
That's 100% correct. That's yeah, absolutely. If anything, you'd want to just construct a big canvas structure, one of those like stretch canvas things right next to the arena, and just make everybody sleep in there like a big barracks.
And so if you lowball how many hotel rooms each team in the playoffs will need, which, let's just say for fun, every Stanley Cup winning team is allowed 52 names on the cup. So let's just say you want 52 people per team there. That's 832 people for the 16 teams, not including Sportsnet, NBC, radio, not including the NHL. So, I mean, if you can find a hotel with like 1,500 rooms that's empty, go for it.
So in other words, we're talking about doubling the population of North Dakota.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But then again, like I said, they do that for Sturgis. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know if they're like, if their plans or their contingency is even considering like the location is anywhere near that or not. If it is, they might be able to pull it off. I don't know. But I don't think that. It seems like an awful lot of struggle and an awful lot of like financial things for. It just seems like a waste. It doesn't seem like the best solution.
Well, I got to think that Independence Day has to be zero barrier. Mm-hmm. Like if you haven't started the playoffs by then, especially if you plan on not having any real impact on next season, that you want to get in a full 82 next year, good luck.
But
watch. The NHL is going to have to break out the idea. They're going to have to take a page out of baseball and say, so how do y'all feel about double headers?
Oh, God.
Oh, no. No, you can't do that. You can't do that on these ice sheets, man.
Well, and you say impact. And so you may be able to have an 82-game season, but if if the playoffs wrap up, let's say August 1st, and then everybody takes a month off, and then you come back for training camp and an 82-game season, like, sure, you're not impacting the integrity of the season, but you're impacting the integrity of your players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say it depends on whose season. I mean, there's such thing as a cup hangover for most people, but the Pittsburgh Penguins apparently. But holy crap. Like 4 weeks between winning the Stanley Cup, 3 weeks between the parade. You so basically get a 2-week vacation, and by then you're mostly not sore anymore. And then you go right back to training camp.
Well, and even then, this is something I thought about. Hashtag shower thoughts. Let's say the 1920 season, let's say it picks back up, like you said, AJ, July 4th. Well, okay, so does that mean the draft is getting pushed, or do you still do the draft at the normal time, in which case now all of a sudden you have all these drafted players, but the previous season's not finished, so you can sign them, but you can't sign them, and it's a whole thing. Because I think even if the season doesn't kick back on until June, I still think in order to respect the integrity of the following season, you would have to keep things like the NHL draft, and you'd have to keep that at the same time.
Yeah, and I like Eric's truncation idea. Instead of a day with the cup, you just get an hour. I like that.
It just goes to that city in North Dakota, and everybody gets a time with it.
You get to just go touch it. Yeah.
Well, you bring up all the other things that have to happen with the draft and all that. I just, if they had not even gotten a third into this season, I think, yeah, okay, you write it off. But 12 games away.
That's what I'm saying. That's why your and I's idea makes the most sense to me. Like, we're 85% of the way through the regular season. You can't just put a bow on it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to see it through.
Well, the thing that really gets me is Mark Stein from the Times put out that NBA players may need up to a month to get back to passable shape.
Oh, wow.
Well, no, but I'm going, a month for the NBA? Really?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
How much conditioning do you need to run 30 feet for 48 minutes a night? Get over it.
This is all I'm saying. And it's
put on your armband and your tall socks and just quit your bitching.
Well, and all of these, a lot of these NBA players have, mansions that, have full courts in them. Uh-huh. if you're not staying in shape, that's on you, pal.
Seriously,
dear Lord.
I don't know. Like, what it would just be like mostly cardio endurance, wouldn't it?
That's all the NBA is running.
So you would just have to like rebuild your cardio endurance and maybe like some arm presses and stuff to get your upper body strength like kind of balanced out again. But I mean, it's not like you have to cut weight to get ready for a fight,
That's the thing. Like you said, AJ, a lot of these guys, they have these big compounds that either have a basketball court on them or they have, let's just say for fun, you have some big sprawling, 2-acre backyard. Just run up and down that thing for an hour.
That's all I'm saying. I know what Brent Burns has like a 400 and some odd acre ranch. I'm sure he's just tooling around on that thing, staying in shape, right?
All I'm saying.
Gosh,
clearly,
he's staying in shape, chasing his kids around.
I was going to say, clearly Patrick Marleau rollerblading all over his house. So,
that was hysterical.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll leave it at that. We'll bop on to some other subjects here. Real quickly, everybody got their broadcaster bobblehead, but there was some talk of, well, what about the other things, the other promotional package items that may have been purchased or whatever? Would those actually ship out since the games weren't played? Well, yes. In fact, items were sent out at least for one of the games that I'm aware of, and that was for which game? I believe the 19th, scheduled against Montreal, and that was the shark sculpture, and unfortunately, several of those arrived broken. So that, I guess, gives you something to do during the summer, is trying to either glue that shit or return the broken one and try to get a new one. Who knows? Of course, also to kill time, NBCSN is rerunning every notable game that has ever been played in the Bay Area, whether it's the Sharks or the Giants or the Athletics. Not a lot of notable games for the Athletics of late, unfortunately, but a lot of Sharks and Giants stuff, some Warriors stuff in there. The Sharks app, they've been rerunning classic Sharks games, which has actually been kind of cool because they are digging deep into the archives. You're talking playoff games in 94 and 95. Kind of, some significant. It's just fun to go back and just to hear some of the names. And you're like, oh, man. Oof. And, of course, Sleepy asking if the shark sculpture was made by Fanatics, and that's why they're all broken. What are you going to do?
That's a solid point.
And speaking of other content, Brody, friend of our show, Brody Brazil, did an interview with him earlier this week. He's talked with Vlasic. He's talked with Kane, Ferraro, Logan. The one thing that stuck out to me was a quote from Vlasic. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just tired of hearing this. But he says, look back on the season of 14-15 when they missed the playoffs, and the next year, 15-16, we go all the way to the Cup final. If you look at that, you build off that experience. The guys came in the following year with something to prove. Okay. The hell does that have to do with now?
Because the guys are building off their experience and have something to prove.
I get that, but I get tired of hearing it's the same thing as that when the Sharks were not doing well. And it's like, well, look at where St. Louis was in January last season. It could happen. And it's like,
see,
and it's the same idea. 14-15, we missed the playoffs, but we went to the final the following season. And it's like, yeah, okay. And then 96, you missed the playoffs. What happened the following year? you miss the playoffs again. Like, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
So I see where you're coming from. It all depends on what you do with this information. Because if you're, if you live in the world of make believe and rainbows and unicorns and all this crap, and say, oh well, we missed the playoffs and then we went to the Cup final, so we're gonna do it again because everything is great. Like, no, like, get a grip. But
everything is awesome.
But if you look at it like how Vlasic put it, where like, okay, the last time we were really crappy, we looked within ourselves and we stepped up to be better players, and it got us to the Cup final. If you look at it from that perspective, 100%, that's what everybody should be saying. Because, what's the whole, I'm butchering this, but like, your biggest failures are what make you more successful. Like,
Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
That's all I'm saying. Like I said, if you look at it from a logical sense of like, we need to be better and this is how we do it, whatever. But if you're in the land of make believe and, oh, it's our turn, like, no, don't start. Just saying. It's been 2 weeks since we did a show. I'm a little spicy.
Yeah, I feel you. Couple interviews.
Had to read a lot of dumb things on social media during this lockdown.
Sorry.
You are not wrong, sir. Doug Wilson, general manager for the Sharks, and President Jonathan Becher both did media interviews this week. Becher basically was answering the call from, I guess a lot of people were questioning, why did the Sharks play the last 3 home games that they did, the 5th against Minnesota, and then the 7th, 8th against Ottawa and Colorado, respectively. And I think what, of course, brought a lot of that on is the fact that Avalanche and Senators players both came down with COVID-19. However, for some reason, no one was also pointing out the fact that, they also played in LA, by the way.
Well, and I was just going to ask if it's okay if I read my dissertation here, because if you do a little homework, the Brooklyn Nets, who had 2 players with COVID, where did they last play before the NBA stoppage?
LA. Staples Center, maybe?
Oh.
That's all I'm saying. People, like, I don't want to name names, but AJ knows what I'm talking about. Do your homework. And if you follow us on Discord, I'll tell you who I'm talking about.
Oh, my gosh.
Doug Wilson also spoke with the media this week, talked about how Hurdle is ahead of schedule. What schedule he's referring to right now, I have no idea.
There's no season. Everybody's ahead of schedule.
This is all I'm saying. Erik Karlsson is on track to, I guess, be able to give you a thumbs up again without it bothering him.
I miss that guy so much.
Suggested, evidently, that Bugner has the inside track to be the head coach for the Sharks at the very least next season. However, I didn't hear or see anything, and you guys can correct me if you have. I didn't see much, though, in the way of staff. There was nothing really mentioned about Ricci or Sommer or Nabokov coming back to be part of the coaching staff with the Sharks next season. And I spoke with Jamie Baker earlier this week. Cheap plug. Go check out that interview. It was actually really good. Jamie was way candid, far more candid than any interview I think we might have ever done. So go and check that out. But Jamie even brought up the fact that he goes, well, Nabby might not want to travel. Maybe he likes working with the CUDA guys, and it's more local. You have to look into that as one thing. And then same with Ricci. Is he more about developing guys versus going on the road and doing all these things? So it's going to be an interesting offseason in that regard.
Well, and not only that, but you think about back to when all the coaching turnover happened. Like, the assistant coaches that Bugner was given was a matter of convenience. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we have these guys who have experience, they can do the job. And for the record, I think Bugner absolutely deserves to get the job, at least for one more year, just between COVID and between inheriting DeBoer's mess. So I think he absolutely gets another chance. But why not, from Doug Wilson's perspective, why not say, okay, erase last year, get your own staff, and let's see what we can do next year?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And because you still have to deal with the CUDA. I mean, even if the
say that like they're a plague. Oh, we have to deal with the CUDA.
Oh no, he got that CUDA.
That's why that's what I think that's what Bakes was talking about. Those those guys, they would rather stay home and develop, and maybe that's part of the culture. Or like maybe that's just part of the Sharks culture about like, yeah, come on, we'll give you a job in San Jose and you can still be in hockey and you can be at the club, but you don't have to travel. It's a great job, So I understand why they would want to go back to the CUDA. And also Sommer is never, I don't think he was ever meant to be a long-term or a permanent fixture in the NHL. He would have been by now. He's an AHL guy.
Well, I think Jerk alluded to it at one point, and we might have all alluded to it, is the fact that one of the reasons, besides a matter of convenience of just walking across the hall, it's these guys were all vetted in a season where you saw coaches shown the door for,
indiscretions.
Shall we say, in the words of Jerk, sus behavior.
So, who do you think who's gonna find for next year? Any names come to mind? Anybody?
I don't know.
Not as Bugner's replacement. I mean, like his assistants for Bugner or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. As tough as head coaches are to peg, like assistant coaches is even tougher because as we've seen, and Philadelphia comes to mind, as we've seen, just about anybody can be a head coach. If you look. Or a coach, rather. If you look at the Philadelphia Flyers, so their head coach is Alain Vigneault, but I know one of their assistant coaches is Michel Therrien, used to be a head coach. Yeah. Another one of their assistant coaches is Mike Yeo, used to be a head coach.
Head coach.
So,
well, where's Mark Crawford? Mark Crawford's an assistant right now, and he was, a bench boss. Didn't he win a cup of Colorado?
You are correct, sir. So, it could be former assistants, former head coaches, former players, former, I don't know. I could be an assistant coach probably. It's the field is way open. You know what I mean?
Marco Sturm, come home.
Well, I know that I can't remember when it was, but was it the Devils that fired somebody and then the GM was like, yeah, I was roommates with this guy in college and they seem to be okay with, so we're just gonna hire him. That's the amount of vetting that they did. That was it.
I hadn't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Oh my God.
Isn't that how Peter DeBoer got the job?
No, this happened at the end of January. I remember listening to it on a podcast. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with the Devils. I will find the story because was it Granato?
Well, didn't see, now you're bringing up the Devils. Didn't the Devils at one time can their coach and the GM just took over for the rest of the season?
That was Anaheim last year.
Oh well, yeah. I thought that happened on the East Coast as well, but.
Well, and I know too. Back in the day, I would have to do some research, but I don't know if it was interim or full time. But I know there was a hot second where if I'm not mistaken, Daryl Sutter was the coach and the GM of the Flames simultaneously.
Yes, he was. I remember that.
And again, I don't know if that's an interim thing or if that was just okay, Daryl, we're gonna give you both. And he's like, what? So I don't know.
Who?
But exactly, and. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, like I said, assistant coaches, it's really hard to peg because a lot of it is okay, you see assistant coaches where maybe they have some tie to the organization or they're one of the head coaches boys or, there's some kind of other circumstance. What comes to mind, and then we can move on, is you think back to Todd McClellan, you kind of saw everything where he had Larry Robinson because he was a legend, and he had Jay Woodcroft because he was one of Todd McClellan's boys, and he had so and so. You see origins for these assistant coaches from all over the place. It's something really difficult to peg. I don't know if Bugner has any friends that would be his assistant coach, but
he just doesn't have friends.
Oh, I'm sure he has friends, but I don't know if any of them are assistant coach material.
I have lots of friends. I just don't think any of you'd be good assistant coaches. Please don't take it personally.
Right?
That's a fair thing to say.
And for those of you who want to see what this looks like without it being broken, there you go. There you go.
Nice flex.
Enjoy. I evidently got the only one. But hey, wait, before the end of the show, you never know. Just saying.
Not a conspiracy or anything.
Yeah. So the Sharks have added themselves a couple pieces to the puzzle. John Leonard set to join, along with defenseman. Say it with me now, jerk.
Brinson Pashnuk.
Boom. There you go.
Phonetic spelling. Love it.
That's how we're going with it. If anybody wants to.
Brinson Pashnuk.
Yes.
Okay.
Dear Lord. We thought we'd all gotten through like the whole Chekovic-Shemelevsky thing. It's like, oh my.
I think for John Leonard, if anybody's surprised at the fact that he got signed, I'm not sure why. When you have 27 goals in 33 games, you're not going back to college as a senior. It's not happening. So good on the Sharks to sell Leonard on signing his ELC and leaving school, because from Leonard's perspective, he could have easily been like, nope, I'll get my degree, and August 2021, I'll sign with whoever I want. So good on the Sharks for getting Leonard to come. I think, especially because the Sharks were starved for goals, I think they'll take him any way they can get him.
Mm-hmm.
Pashnuk is interesting, and I don't hate it. I mean, I've made the argument many times before that it's incredibly difficult to be point per game in college hockey as a forward, and Pashnuk has done that as a defenseman. So I think, obviously, that's something to be excited about. He also was in the Sharks rookie camp last year, went to Arizona State, so he's not exactly local, but he's close. And Arizona State is a D1 school as well. A left-handed offensive defenseman, though. I don't know that that's high on the list for the Sharks.
All left-handed.
Right, and I think the signing a left-handed defenseman, this tells me one of two things. Either the Sharks feel comfortable playing a lefty on the right side, which, I mean, if that's the case, honestly, like, who cares? Or could a left-handed defenseman be on their way out?
Mm-hmm. Well, we already lost one earlier this season.
Stop! It's still painful.
And the same thing with John Leonard. Like the Sharks, the Sharks wouldn't have signed Pashnuk if they didn't think he could make an NHL impact right away.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but there's a lot of people that the Sharks thought were going to make an impact this season that unfortunately did not.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is never take a chance on anything promising. Got it.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, last year they did that, and it's like every time they pulled the arm down, it was just the sevens weren't lining up whatsoever. Sleepy asking, how many games do you think Brinson will be a healthy scratch next season? Are you talking about for the CUDA or for the Sharks?
He's not going to be a healthy scratch.
Yeah. No, we're just screwing around. Let's go a little bit around the NHL for a hot minute. Let me ask you this. Now, over the last month, because of people having that corona, as Jerk likes to say, we have seen an amazing amount of, I should say, a lack of preparedness. Mm-hmm. Sports talk radio, media personalities, this is like the one thing none of them were prepared for, both locally and on a national level. We have people that are like coming on national broadcasts or doing stuff on social media, whatever, and they don't even have devices that film in HD. Meanwhile, Brody Brazil is like, full-blown TV studio in his backyard.
Yeah, basically.
And it just makes you wonder, like, some of these guys, how do you not have at least a little something? Like, all of a sudden, we went from this little mom and pop podcast thing to like being one of the most well-produced things on the internets lately.
Yeah, true.
I mean, dude, and with this, and I'm trying to remember who, I don't know if it was Bill Maher, it was somebody else that said, look, there's like 3 things you can do during all of this. You can, binge watch everything on every streaming platform. You can catch up on your library or whatever, or you can start a podcast. And everybody and their mother has decided to start a goddamn podcast because they're done with Netflix and Pornhub and they're done with their books.
I'm so glad we got the jump on them then, so we got all the bugs worked out.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
We all got the right microphones well in advance.
Oh, dude, and that's the whole thing. You hear some of the audio on some of this shit, and you're just going, wow. A lot of that digital signal processing and the compression is really helping some of those people out. It's like auto-tune for radio announcers. Let me let you know. But now we're going to break out. Unfortunately, I don't have a graphic or anything prepared. I wish I would have thought about this earlier, but we're going to break out Hockey Jerk's soapbox.
Oh, no.
As I ask him one question, and that is, what the fuck is Boston ownership doing?
Here we go.
Okay, so give me... Okay, here, hold on. Ask me that question again.
What the fuck is Boston ownership thinking?
God damn it! Let me tell you, AJ, they're not thinking.
I have some things to say.
They're not thinking. I said this on Twitter whenever I said it, but Boston, the Bruins, they were last in line to help, and this is me borrowing words from RA of Spit and Chicklets. They were last in line to help their employees, and they were first in line to screw them over. Mm-hmm. And it's such a joke because, number one, Boston's owner is a guy who's got a couple bucks to his name. Number two, Boston is one of those teams who has sponsorship dollars coming in. Hello, Dunkin' Donuts. Hello, TD Garden. Number three, Boston is supposed to be this world-class, like talking point and measuring stick for the league. Oh, the Bruins are original six, and they've been to this many cup finals in the last 10 years, and that's how we want to be. No. Again, and AJ and Rocket both know this. I've hated the Boston Bruins since day frickin' one. And, just when I thought I couldn't hate them anymore, they pull this kind of crap. So on a little history here, on March the 21st, they say, well, if the games get canceled, we'll give them a couple bucks. And it's like, okay, I guess that's nice, but you're hinging all of that on an if. And then you fast forward, and their initial position on this whole thing was like being insensitive or being stupid, and then they doubled down on that by, like I said, only paying their employees if everything gets canceled. And who knows when that could be. Like AJ said, everything could get canceled by the 4th of July.
Yep. And
it's like, okay, how good is your March paycheck to you on the 4th of July? A little too late there, Chief. And then, like Rocket brought to light, Boston is trying to place blame on the company that they outsource their work to on Delaware North. Yeah. Like, no, own your stupid decisions. It's such a joke, honestly, because like everybody talks about how good and iconic the spoked bee is. No, it's a bunch of bullshit. And if Boston got moved to Quebec or Houston or any of these other NHL cities that AJ thinks the team deserves, I would shed zero tears about it, because Boston's a joke, their owner's a joke, their play-by-play guy is a joke.
No,
well, hold on, their players are a joke, because AJ and I talked about this on the phone. They have some of the wealthiest players in the league. Patrice Bergeron's making a pretty penny. David Krejci, Zdeno Chara, that guy's got more money than who knows.
Pasta's getting paid.
Here's $1,000. $7 million players kicking over $1,000. You know who else kicked over $1,000? Andrew Mangiapane, who just came off his entry-level deal on the Calgary Flames. Not only that, the CEO of the Dallas Stars and the GM of the Dallas Stars, they were not given 50% pay cuts. They took 50% pay cuts to help people out. The San Jose Sharks, that team that we follow and talk about and enjoy, they have said no one is going to lose their jobs. Nobody's going to lose their pay no matter what. The Anaheim Ducks owners have kicked over like over $1 million for their part-time employees. And yeah, the Vegas Golden Knights were a little late to the party, but even they're doing things.
I'm not the only one right now that's like picturing Jerk holding like a hanky, just preach, my brother, preach.
Oh, I'm pissed. I'm waiting
I have
for
some
the
things
church
to say.
I need a tambourine. I feel like I need a
Seriously,
tambourine.
like, and again, it's not a secret. Like, I've always despised the Boston Bruins, but they've given me another reason to hate them. And it's such a joke because everybody says that the original six is the measuring stick of the league and it's so crucial to the history and they're so important and that's how everybody wants to be. They're making themselves look like a bunch of assholes.
Arbitrary six, but yes. Now,
You're
let me
here,
ask you
yeah.
this.
It's a joke.
If this was Florida,
I am upset.
if this was the Panthers organization, would you at least, never won anything, made it to one final, and historically have a difficult time drawing people? Could you at least to a certain extent understand it if it was Florida doing the same thing?
Maybe, but even then, the Florida Panthers have kicked over at least $500,000 to their employees. And
Yeah.
I had this conversation with a buddy of mine earlier. The Florida Panthers are probably the one team in the NHL who's content with losing money every year, and they still kicked over money. Sergei Bobrovsky kicked over $100,000 by himself. That guy has zero obligation to do that, and he did it anyway. The other players kicked over $100,000. Their owner, and a lot of people have things to say about their owner, but their ownership group kicked over a couple $100,000.
And didn't Bob just go there?
Yeah, Bobrovsky's been on the Panthers for 8 months.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. How
Saw
is
a bunch of people make comments after he donated money, and they're like, "Yep, put that contract to good use."
And Thomas Greiss, and his wife, they've come together. They went on Instagram and said, if you need supplies, food, whatever, shoot me a DM. My wife and I will help you out.
I'm sorry, his what?
Him and his wife will help them out. Like, everybody's been preaching during this whole COVID thing. Everybody's been saying, rich, poor, male, female, upper class, lower class, whatever. We all have to help each other out. Help out your fellow man and woman.
Unless you're in Boston.
Unless you own the Boston Bruins. Then you have real estate to just be a piece of shit.
And you can all go politely fuck yourselves. I'm going to stay here with my fat pile of money.
Especially and again, this shouldn't be news to anybody. I think I'd have to do a little more research, but I think as early as like the 90s, people were calling the Bruins owner like Mr. Burns.
Yeah. Well, and didn't Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, use his plane to fly a bunch of supplies in or something like that, or have it delivered somewhere? So that just it's even a worse look. And Boston's, they went to the final last year. They won the cup in 2011. Did they win another cup in the last 10 years, or did they go? Or
Boston Bruins?
Yeah.
Cup win in 2011, Cup final 2013, Cup final 2019.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not. My point being is that they've seen some playoff revenue. You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, but outside of outside of that though, but like I said, they're a team. They bring in a lot of money. Their owner's got a lot of cash. They are. It's Boston Bruins to an extent are synonymous with Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, well, cheap bastards. Anyway,
this
I'm removing the soapbox. We've taken it down now.
Okay.
That's just me poking jerk with a stick right there.
And then this
I think this
geriatric loser had to have his kids held a press conference to explain themselves. It's such a joke.
Get him.
Well, let's get
Please at me, Boston Bruins.
Let's get into one of the final things, and this is, I'm sorry. Now, this might be the time for me to get on my soapbox. Rocket, if you have a soapbox topic, get it in now. But can we stop with the fucking top 10 articles, the ranking articles? Look, I know that it's hard to come up with content when absolutely nothing is going on. But Jesus Christ almighty, today on The Athletic, the Bay Area Media's Hall of Fame, limiting this to 25 inductees wasn't easy. Well, then why bother limiting it? Because let's make it bigger and badder and everything else. So,
top 30 NHL teams the Sharks should trade Erik Karlsson to.
That was the best one. All right. Well, okay. Give me a minute. I have to address an issue in the room, but you can go back to bitching about Boston or talking about some of these ranking things. But the bingo games. Oh my God! Just talk about social media and just the yeah. Go ahead.
Or like I spy with my little eye, find something on your camera roll and shove it up your ass. No, yeah. I think.
Talk, Rocket. Tell us about Mario Ferraro's YouTube account.
Okay, yeah, no, like that. That's y'all want a soapbox. This is a soapbox. This is like me standing on a soapbox and blowing bubbles, kind of. This is not Mad Rocket. So poor Mario Ferraro has been quarantining back at his house with his family. I guess like one of his sisters and his mom and dad. So he's basically staying in the room that he grew up in as a kid. Like that's one of the coolest things to me. So his quarantine uniform, like he's putting out videos about tech and about fitness and.
Well, you should also mention that he's sleeping on a twin bed currently.
That's true. He is sleeping on a twin bed.
As a 21-year-old.
As a 21-year-old professional hockey player. God bless him. So he's kicking it like his quarantine uniform happens to be a Target exclusive Stranger Things holiday sweater with the blinky lights in it, and like. I think it's funny because you see kids out here with their first year contracts and they're flexing hard with their Louis or their Supreme, whatever. And here he is like, Target, Stranger Things. I love that.
You have to appreciate that. No, and some of the stuff that like the social media stuff, you look at some, like Christina Marlowe sounds like she's about ready to like put her children up for adoption at this point. Marlowe's skating around the house. You've seen some of the video with Brendan Dillon and his fiance doing some sort of dance thing. Like we're getting to a certain point where it's like, man, these guys really need something to goddamn do. Mm-hmm. But can we stop with the see a dog, send a dog. I'm not playing your fucking chain letter forwarding game. It's not going to happen. So please stop tagging me in this crap. But the rankings. Oh, my Lord. I mean, just going down the Athletic. Again, Bay Area Media, Hall of Fame, who I would put in there, blah, blah, blah. Interestingly enough, neither Randy Hahn or Dan Ruzanowski made the cut. I don't even know how that's possible when they've been in here 30 years. And they get honorable mention.
Randy Hahn also was the driving force in getting San Jose a hockey team. Let's start there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
whoever wrote that can suck a fart. Do you hear me?
That was
a fart.
That was Steve Berman. Yeah, actually,
hey, Steve, suck a fart, Steve Berman.
He's really nice guy. Not the most well versed in the Sharks. So
well, in the words of somebody who I respect and admire, do your homework.
Thank you. Well, and you know what? I'm glad you brought this up, AJ. I actually just saw a ranking article that I think. I mean, I know we're like kind of dissing them a little bit, and we're saying peel back on them. But I actually saw one that I think is pretty good. I'll drop the link later on, but it's top 1 San Jose Sharks podcasts, and it's ours.
Shocker.
If that's not on Tealtown USA tomorrow.
That needs to be.
Dude, and then
my article would have been the top 10 list articles.
Yeah.
top 10 numbers 1 through 10 ranked in a top 10.
You know, it would be a really quick top 10. Top 10 coffee carts at SAP Center.
You won't believe where number 1 is.
The other thing I saw in the Athletic, the 2020 NHL broadcast rankings, best and worst markets, and the Sharks finished 6th. Pretty strong,
solid, very solid.
Yeah, solid finish. There was some very nice words. However, and look. Everybody knows that there are a couple people involved with Teal Town that have just a huge love of Drew Remenda. And if you go and look at these rankings, he's mentioned in both the Edmonton and Sharks, which I think speaks a lot to the guy's been gone now for like 6 years, and he still gets a lot of pub. I think that speaks volumes of how much of an impact he had on the fan base here. And, Hasso, you're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm just saying. Now my vote for the worst. Here are two of the worst ones.
They got it right. I'll say that.
The worst one for me so far, it's the best athlete for every uniform number. How fucking bored do you have to be to
For
go
every number?
Every number. So how bored do you have to be?
I wonder who had 99.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but this is Bay Area.
Sports.
Yeah, this is but this is across all sports, but Bay Area, right? So, like to go from 0-0 Jim Otto all the way to 99. How bored do you have to be to put this fucking article together? And if you would like to know, number 99 was DeForest Buckner from the San Francisco 49ers.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. Well, deforestation is bad, right? 88, obviously going to Burns. 19 went to Thornton. And then aside from that, I don't think there was a single shark that made it. So
top 10 articles I don't give a shit about.
So yeah, Owen Nolan got an honorable mention.
What a joke! Who else is number 11 in the Bay Area?
Klay Thompson from the Warriors.
Trash.
Alex,
Trash.
trash.
Sorry.
Alex Smith from the 49ers was an honorable mention.
He's
Yeah.
Bay Area sports and the Sharks.
This is what
that's what we should call it.
Yeah. Yeah, you true.
Well, it's just like what John Oliver said on Last Week Tonight. Like major sports franchises in the United States shut down, as did hockey.
Yeah, that was solid.
Well, it makes me wonder if Joe Thornton wore 22, would Thornton be named the main guy, or would it still be Will Clark from the San Francisco Giants? I don't know.
I don't even know who it is. So
okay,
shows you where he is on my ranking.
That's all I'm saying. And then, interestingly enough, here. If Joe Thornton, you can't say wore 28 because Buster Posey was going to get it no matter what. 3 World Series. The guy's got too many rings. But you know who got an honorable mention? Ryan Clough. I think that says a lot that there wasn't a lot wearing 29. I'm just saying. But either way, my point is, how bored are you to sit there and write that fucking article?
But it depends. You split it into a 3-parter. You got your whole week's work done for you.
I guess. But you understand what I'm saying. But to top it all off, now the Athletic, I get it. It's written stuff. They got to pull stuff off. Now look, I appreciate NBC's their broadcast. I loved what they did with the new studio and everything like that. All of that is great. That being said, some of their published work, let's just say, whoever the brain trust is over there that's coming up with ideas, they might maybe want to hire somebody else, perhaps us, because we're putting out better content. Not to mention the fact that they've straight ripped us off a few times, but it's okay. It's okay.
That's true. That's true.
Imitation, sincerest form of flattery, evidently. But this is what they put up earlier this week, and I wanted to retch. It's the best Bay Area venue. This is how fucking bored we are, people, that we're going to bracketize venues and include one that hasn't existed in almost a decade. Are you?
Oh my god! I just realized
for
that.
Real?
Oh my god!
Are you fucking for real?
There is no way in hell anybody would have ever picked the Stick as their number 1 best bear. And if you do, you're dumb. You're just dumb. You need to get out more.
Well, you might as well have put, Stanford Stadium in here or something.
Why isn't the Cow Palace on there then?
Yeah, exactly, right?
I
right?
would have to give that a first-round buy for it to stick around.
I'd pick the Cow Palace over Candlestick. I'll tell you that, buddy.
Dude, like instead of putting Candlestick in here, they might as well have just put in the new Barracuda Arena that's going to be around in 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, but just Jesus Christ, Best Bay Area venue. How the fuck do you include one that hasn't existed in a decade? Stop.
Well, not only that, but all of these venues offer different things.
Yes.
What does Candlestick offer right now?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, how can
parking lot.
You know, like you're gonna have the people, like you're gonna have somebody who's like, okay, well, so you're gonna have somebody who's maybe they're a Sharks fan and they're a Warriors fan, and so they've been to SAP and they've been to Oracle. Maybe they're a bigger Sharks fan. So even if they like Oracle better because they're a big Sharks fan, they're going to pick the SAP Center. It's like saying, oh, okay, if you like this apple, just wait until you try bananas. Like,
hold on, let's get to Chris's question because this is a solid question. I'm not used to Chris asking. See, here's the whole thing: the fact that Chris had to actually tell us that he was being serious speaks volumes. But he's asking, what articles should these guys be writing? And I totally agree. For me, there's a lot of players that don't have anything to do right now. Perhaps, I mean, because look at what Brody's doing. You know, Brody is wearing his Rolodex down to the nub, getting guys on FaceTime, talking to those guys from the A's, talking to the guys from the Sharks, and generating content in that regard. Why can't these other guys get on, you know, hey, Kurz gets on the phone with like that versus, you know, hey, top 10 Philly cheesesteaks I've ever eaten at SAP Center. I mean, goodness.
Number 4 gave me heartburn.
Yeah, you won't believe what number 4 did to my colon. You know what I mean?
I would like to see more in-depth research done by these journalists. I want to see them crack a couple of history books open, get a couple of numbers out, and put some really good stories together. You know, the first professional women's hockey teams were around just before the beginning of World War I, and the reason why women stopped playing professional hockey, they're getting paid to play hockey, was because of World War I. And like, I never hear anything about that anywhere. I saw it on a documentary once. Like, it's a 10-hour documentary, but it's a 10-hour documentary. Like, find shit like that out and bring it out so more people can see it. I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins had basically like 20 people from Black Girl Hockey on the other day.
This is what I'm saying. And if you're covering the Sharks, let's talk to. I mean, Jesus, can we get like? Well, hold on. There was a mayor that passed away not too long ago. Was that Susan Hammer? I want to say it was Hammer. But like anybody that was involved with like getting the tank built, like, you know, maybe perhaps some history. Ruzanowski, two things with Ruzanowski. First off, the guy is a walking encyclopedia. He keeps an amazing amount of notes. He retains information like no one's business. And you see where he lives. It's one of the most ornate places I've ever witnessed in my life. If you look at the videos that they've put out for the Daily Shark, it is an amazing, it really goes to show you that he has so much time available, if that's what his house looks like right now. So get him on the horn and do some bits with him. Like, I mean, goodness. And hey, maybe get on the phone if you're going to do some retro stuff, and maybe you can get 10 minutes with Owen Nolan or Jeff Friesen or Vinny Damphus or what, you know, Arturs Urbe, whoever. Like, I would take similar to what like Club 91 is doing, that the Sharks are doing, where they're inviting back alumni to share their memories, share stories or whatever. That's what I would like to see coming out from a lot of these places. Now, maybe NBCSN doesn't have the contacts or whatever. Either way, I expect more from the Athletic when we have downtime.
I am a big fan of everybody's sourdough starters, though. I think it's really interesting that now in this weird time, everybody is, if they're not starting a podcast, they're deciding to make sourdough.
Yeah.
But they're all athletes and shit too. So it's like, well, start talking about food then. Like if there's no sports, but you're a sports person and you like food, talk about food. That's what I like about Mario Ferraro. He's a gaming guy. He talks about gaming. Never talks about hockey. I love it.
Oh, hey, how about somebody puts together something like, the Wives of Hockey, and they just say, hey, submit us your what is it that you make that your husband loves, or something like that. I mean, anything like that. Even Down Goes Brown is ranking all 67 hat tricks from the 1920 season.
What?
Stop.
Dude, I shit you not. That I'm looking at that right now. Down Goes Brown ranked all 67. This is my point, people. This is what I'm saying. The top. Oh, here's another one. The top 10 uniforms in Bay Area professional sports. Get the fuck out of here with this.
Between all the Bay Area teams, there are only like 10 uniforms.
Yeah. Here's a hint. The author never wore one.
Like, Warriors are number one because they have the most championships, and they wore this uniform when they won those championships. Yeah. No, like, I think, or I think it was Rocket who said, like, maybe turn it around on the writer and have them write about why they chose to follow sports or why they chose to be a journalist or why. It's something about them,
Yeah.
Or and it's one of the things I like about Kevin Kurz is that we generally know a little bit about Kevin Kurz beyond his career as a journalism. Like, we know that he's from Philadelphia. We know that he likes history, and we know that he, kind of likes to
stir the pot.
Stir the pot a little bit.
Pearl Jam and he likes Pearl Jam, and the Eagles are his football team.
Here, I'm going to put this out right now. If you want to put together an article for Teal Town USA, if you would like to submit one, I would love to see it. I'd love to read it. You'd love to see it. Give me the top 10 Sharks suspensions. I'll take that. You won't believe that Rafi Torres is 3 out of the top 10.
I want to know top 10 first NHL goals by players against the Sharks.
That too.
Yeah, because there's like 95 guys who have had their first goal against San Jose.
Yeah, if you're going to do the top 10 thing, if that's going to be like your, like your fallback, the lazy fallback, if you will, then make it a fucking deep dive. I want it to be like, I love Rocket's idea, like top 10 first NHL goals versus the Sharks. I think that is genius.
Well, and we've talked about, too, numerous times, we've talked about how hockey players like talking about not hockey.
That, too.
So why not? Oh, I love you, Chris.
Top 10 blown leads by the Sharks. That's a great one.
So why not talk to Mario Ferraro about tech gear? Why not talk to Brent Burns about
snakes,
hunting livestock and barbecuing,
tattoos?
Yeah, like Brent Burns, if you follow Brent Burns on Instagram, this past week he's been posting on his Instagram story what he's been cooking every day. Like, steer into that. Or, like how John Root went to Half Moon Bay to play golf with Stefan Nason. I mean, granted that was weeks ago, but it came out now. Like, stuff like that. Like, maybe you turn around and you talk to Nason. It's like, okay, let's talk about golf because you like doing that. Or Logan Couture and his book club too. Like,
yep, exactly. This is all I'm saying.
Why is nobody lining up to talk to Couture about what his favorite books are?
Dude, I think you could do something funny where you come up with 20 questions with S.J. Sharkey. And you just make sure that each one can be answered yes or no. Boom. Sure.
Yeah.
And dude, that's a solid 3-minute video right there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, again, I look at all this, ranking this and top 20 this and top 10 this, and it's just like, oh dear God. You know what? Because I'm guilty of it, because I did a jersey ranking thing for the Sharks, but I did that because we literally had nothing else to do, and it was the only one we had ever done. And as soon as I did it, as soon as I hit publish, I felt dirty. I was like, I shouldn't have done
that. You're taking paparazzi money now.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? That was probably the wrong thing to do. Like, after reading it, I'm like, if somebody else wrote this, would I like it? Probably not. But then again, there were already 20 of those out there, and I'm like, well, yeah, but they all got it wrong, so I had to correct it. But other than that, I don't know. I'm just I understand you guys are just when people are tuning in to watch simulated animated games or whatever. I mean, we know we have reached zero barrier when it comes to having something to pay attention to. I'll give you that. And that being said, look forward to a series that we're running next week that'll start tomorrow, by the way. TealTownUSA.com. But at least this is something to we're going to have a little bit of fun with. Just something. I'll give you a little hint. Anaheim did this recently, and it's what if the Sharks did this? So that the series 1 of the article, it's a 3-part series, and series 1 will come out tomorrow. And what else? Oh, again, I have to go back to I had a good talk with Brody earlier this week. It was last Tuesday or whatever, but go check out that. Talked with them for about an hour. A lot of fun. It's always fun talking with Brody because sometimes he'll let something slip on accident, which is always quite fun, at least for me. Not jerk, Puck guy. I mix up the nicknames sometimes. But Kura spoke with Randy Hahn for about 12, 15 minutes earlier this week as well. I'm getting so jealous of Randy Hahn's social media. If you look at all the awesome food that dude is coming home with every day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my. I saw that Jake's, the Garrett, which it's all the same shit. But that stuff, or you saw what did he pull home the other day? Was it Aldo's? Sushi Confidential. I mean, dude, that dude is eating well. And again, we talked with Jamie Becher for an hour, little over an hour, and again, one of the most candid interviews I've ever done. It was to the point where there was a couple things said where I was just I felt should I send this back to him and say, are you comfortable with this being out there? But go check it out for yourself. Tell me if I'm wrong. But it's a great interview. Bake's insanely personable, and his stories about the 93-94 season were awesome. So with that, I think it's probably time we pack it up. We put in a solid hour. And I didn't know that we'd be able to do that with nothing going on. Although I think the Boston soapbox thing probably had a good amount to do with that.
Yeah, but we didn't even have to throw a top 10 list in here to pad anything out. See how easy that was?
Yeah, dude, we hate lists so much, we got rid of our fucking 3 stars that we used to do, all right? All right, so Rocket, where can they find you on social media?
Okay, so since y'all can't find me in real life, y'all can find me on social media, hanging out over on Twitter, capital R, capital B, little backhander76. That's R backhander76 over on the Twitter. Or you can check out photographs. There'll be more fun, interesting things to come up here as we go along throughout the year. Instagram, photographs, Rocket Backhander, one word, no spaces. AJ?
Nice. And the Jerk Amon.
Yes. Okay, so if you never gets old. Obviously, the shtick here, the thing here, we all talk about hockey. But lately, hockey's not been a thing. So you could follow me on Twitter at @hockey_jerk, and we'll talk about hockey when hockey comes back. But, WrestleMania just happened. Marvel things are happening. I have other non-hockey interests sometimes, maybe.
WrestleMania.
So if you like things, follow me on Twitter at @hockey_jerk.
Oh, dear Lord. And I am AJ_strong on all the social media platforms, yada, 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 yada. And, yeah. So it'd be nice to get back to some hockey. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So, I don't know, take this opportunity to, strip your floors or clean your baseboards or, something.
I hung a photo.
Seal your grout.
There you go. Get
Scrub
into
your bathtub.
Yeah, get into photography. Because everybody's got one. So I think with that, it's probably a good time to sign off. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Before we jam, though, I don't know if we're going to be here next week. I think right now we might be doing this kind of every other week thing. So at least for the time being, unless hockey resumes next week, which I don't think it's going to. But just wanted to let you guys know that. Again, new series is going to be rolling tomorrow on Teal Town, USA. Again, if you ever miss a show, want to hear it again, you can find our content on your favorite podcatcher, and everything is always available on YouTube and at tealtownusa.com. Always please tell a friend, subscribe to YouTube. We would appreciate that, and follow us on our social media. Thank you very much for listening to show number 98. We will be with you at some point, in some way, somehow. But thanks for listening. We'll see you at show 99 sometime in 2020. Good night, everyone.